the developmental algebra class, Factoring Trinomials. For today, I picked this one because it is often daunting when students come across this process, and I wanted also to listen to what students listen to and see if there's a way that I can improve what they're hearing and seeing so that they are more successful. Today we are going to begin by briefly looking at factors and factoring. Then we will investigate and solve factoring trinomials using Algeblocks and whiteboard practice. When we identify two numbers which when multiplied together will equal another, the two numbers are factors and the answer is a product. For example, you can multiply 8 times 1 and 2 times 4 and they both will equal 8. 1 and 8 and 2 and 4 are factors and 8 is the product. Modeling this with Algeblocks, we will begin with 8 blocks. To find the factors, take the blocks and form a rectangle. There are two possibilities, 1 by 8 and 2 by 4. Each set of numbers are factors of 8. Remember that factors must always form a rectangle. When factoring algebraic trinomials, it works much in the same way. For example, let's investigate the trinomial x squared plus 5x plus 6 with Algeblocks. The yellow square piece will be the x squared. It has a length x, and x times x is equal to x squared. The yellow sticks are also length x, but with width 1. And it is the same width as the green square. It will have area of 1x. One green block equals 1. So this will be the representation of x squared plus 5x plus 6 with Algeblocks. With exploration, we find that length x is not equal to any number of green blocks, which is important to know when we are trying to factor the trinomial. To find factors, we must again build a rectangle using the Algeblocks. It is tempting just to line everything up, but we already know that 3 blocks will not equal length x. With investigation, we learn that a stick must lie next to the square, and blocks must fill the remaining space, forming a rectangle. Once we have completed a rectangle, we can identify the binomial factors. Along the bottom, we have x plus 3, and we have x plus 2 on the side. The binomial factors are then x plus 3 and x plus 2. Using the Algeblocks, it's often easier to visualize what factors really are and how it all works, but use of them continuously would be very time-consuming, so further inquiry is needed. Using the written form of x squared plus 5x plus 6, alongside the Algeblock rectangle representation, let's see what we can learn. Open two sets of parentheses under the written form. We know that x squared will be obtained by having an x in the front of both parentheses. You can go back to the model and see why, and also remember the distributive property, x times x is x squared. The second term in each parenthesis comes from the factors of 6. The factors of 6 are 2 times 3 and 6 times 1. The problem is that we know 6 times 1 is not the correct solution from our model. So we must have a method to figure out which is correct by looking at our written form. The factors of 6 are going to add to equal 5, and 5 is the middle term. We will need to explore further to see if this always works. Here is the Algeblock model for x squared plus 6x plus 8. Again, we see the factors of 8, 2 and 4, add to equal 6, the middle term. Further investigation proves this is always true when the terms are positive. When we open two parentheses under the written form, we know that x will be in the front. We're looking for the factors of 8, which are 8 and 1, and 2 and 4. If we add the factors, 8 and 1, we will end up with 9. 2 and 4 will give us 6. So we know that 2 and 4 are the correct solution. We're going to put 2 and 4 in the parentheses. They will both be plus because everything in that equation is plus. Okay. What happens when the middle term is negative, as in x squared minus 7x plus 6? The 7 sticks must be in the negative area of the quadrant mat. And you can see that this one is set up slightly different than any we have seen. But again, the blocks must, if you bring them all together, they must make a perfect rectangle. You can see along the side we have x minus 1 and x minus 6. When we factor the expression, again we will open two sets of parentheses, and we're looking for the factors of 6. We know the factors of 6 are 2 times 3 and 6 times 1. The solution is the factors of 6, which we can add to get negative 7. That will be negative 6 and negative 1. Algebra blocks for one more expression, x squared minus 2x minus 8. At first glance, it may appear that the expression cannot be factored. To complete the rectangle in algebra blocks, sometimes we must add 0 pairs. This can be confusing, but just remember to add one positive and one negative together at the same time. We can complete the rectangle, and the factors are x plus 2 and x minus 4. Looking at the expression x squared minus 2x minus 8, we need the factors of 8, which subtract to equal negative 2. Subtract because the 8 is negative, and this also means that one parenthesis will be negative. Using the algebra blocks, we were able to begin our investigation of factoring trinomials. I remind my students that so much of math is about practicing and practicing and practicing. Sometimes we get really tired of it, but it does help. It brings it all together. I want to take a look at this particular problem here, where I have the factors of 15. Okay, I'm going to start off with my x's. I'm looking for the factors of 15 that subtract to equal negative 2. Well, 15, I can have factors of 15 and 1, or 5 and 3. When I subtract these two, I will get 14. And when I subtract these, I will get 2. Well, this is possible, so I know I'm going to have 5 and 3. And again, I'm looking for a negative 2. So if I look at these two, and I know that I'm going to subtract them, this one must be negative and that positive. One of each sign. Thank you for coming out today and spending just a few minutes with us in a developmental algebra class.